I'm always trying to connect people to science. And that could be, my bias because I'm just a scientist and I just think and I see the world in through the lens of the scientist, but also just to remind people that the complexity of things is not just about how you solve problems, but how you use the knowledge to really make change. Because it's not about like all of the wealth we have and all of the connections we have, but it is, are we doing what we need to do to move generations forward and ahead? Because whatever happens after this pandemic, there's going to depend on all of us to make that. And so we have to be open to encouraging people to give their voices and use their voices in a meaningful way.
After you graduated from school, you went into industry and then later decided to go into teaching. Talk a little bit about that journey and what drove that change for you.
Right after graduate school, I ended up working as a forensic chemist, first with the Department of, the Drug Enforcement Administration, but I also worked at the Forensic Science Institute, also known as the county morgue. Well, one of the things we had to do as a professional during our time at the DEA is we had to volunteer. We had to do anything, pick up trash, go sit in a nursing home and play bingo, collect cans, but we had to do some kind of service. And a friend of mine worked at the front desk and said, Jennifer, we volunteered, we partnered with this school. We've never been in 3 years. Can you let that be your volunteer activity? I said, sure. So long story short, I found myself wanting to go into the classroom more than I had to do my regular job. So my boss called me and said, Jennifer, I've nominated you for a big award, and we're going to be celebrating you and the rest of the honorees in a couple of weeks. So I go to the award ceremony, and I was awarded the Administrator's Award for Community Service. So the administrator is the person who sits on the President of the United States Cabinet, and normally that individual awards, like agents who've, analyzed a certain amount of illicit substances, or an officer who passed away in a line of duty and giving it to its family, but they gave it to me for community service. And so as I walked up to get my award, I recognized that I was not getting it for being a scientist. I was getting it for the service I was doing in the classroom. I got that award in April. I was in the classroom in August, and I have not turned back since. And what was really important for me is that when I was in that experience, in that environment with the kids, several of them said, we didn't even know that girls could be scientists. We don't even know what a scientist is. We don't know what that looks like. So they had no idea. And I also realized that was a calling on my life to change how kids saw what science is, and recognize that you can be a scientist, and it is a thing, and it's not hard, it's not awkward, and demystify that whole concept of what it means to be a scientist and who a scientist is and what that person can become.
When you first decided to go into STEM, what were some of the barriers and obstacles that you had to overcome?
The barriers that I had to go get over was the fact that people looked at me and assumed that I was not qualified just because of how I walked into the room, because of that intersectionality of race and gender. And far too often, girls of color and people of varying backgrounds still suffer from that intersectionality, and it's race and something else, it's gender and something else. And so for me, getting over that barrier was figuring out how to use my potential to do greater things. As women, we understand that we have a responsibility beyond ourselves. And so the Texas Women's Foundation teaches us and teaches those to use their connections, to be resourceful, and to have a responsibility to hold everybody accountable for the good that is going on in the world.